city woke heavy, its air like a damp coat draped over every window and street corner. Detective Mills stood at the edge of a cordoned alley, his trench coat undone, the smell of smoke clinging to him. Amelia watched him closely, notebook pressed against her chest, her eyes sharp but uncertain. A balloon lay trapped against a gutter, swaying like a compass needle that had lost its north. Mills muttered that the child had been taken before breakfast, just as the city was stirring to life. Neighbors whispered from doorsteps, their voices brittle as though speaking too loudly might summon the same fate. Amelia bent to the cracked pavement, tracing chalk marks that led nowhere, like a story without its ending. Mills thought of his scar, the one that split his lip, a reminder that some wounds never pointed toward justice. The balloon slipped free, rising into the grey sky, and both detectives followed its climb in silence. For a moment, Mills felt the city itself was watching, waiting for its next loss. The investigation had begun, but the city's compass spun wildly, refusing direction. The balloon had vanished into the sky, but the weight it left pressed down on the streets below. Mills lit a cigarette outside the alley, its ember glowing like a signal in the fog. Amelia scribbled in her notebook, recording fragments of witness whispers, each one pointing in a different direction. Across the city, taverns and cellars shook as police rage crashed through doors, turning duels and lives upside down. Black gathered his men in a smoke-filled room, the table between them scarred like a battlefield. He told them the police would not stop, that their world was shrinking like a shoreline under rising tide. One man asked if the killer mattered, but Black silenced him with a stare colder than steel. He said the killer was not just a man, but a stone thrown into water, making waves that threatened all of them. Mills and Amelia passed under flickering street lamps, feeling the city's pulse quicken, though neither spoke of fear. The streets felt like a frayed rope, one side pulled by justice, the other by survival, and both strands near breaking. The night deepened, and somewhere beneath it, the first true undercurrent began to stir. The raids had left the city raw, its wounds still open when the postcard arrived. On the front, a faded sketch of a carousel, on the back, words carved in red pencil that bled like fresh cuts. Mills turned the card over and over, his gloves smudged with its taunt. Amelia leaned closer, noting the uneven strokes, the way each letter dragged like a tired foot on a worn path. At the station, they compared the scroll with old files, arsonists, thieves, and men who once spoke of shadows in their sleep. Names surfaced, each one heavier than the last, like stones dropped into already murky water. Mills recalled one inmate who once filled his cell walls with red chalk, circling words until they lost meaning. The detectives argued quietly, Amelia pressed for logic, Mills trusted instinct, but both felt the weight of eyes unseen. In a tavern across town, Black read the same news and muttered that every shadow now looked like a knife. The postcard lay on the desk between Mills and Amelia, as heavy as a verdict yet unwritten. It was not just a message, it was a direction, and the path ahead was already worn thin. The postcard still burned in Mills's pocket when he stepped into the tenement. The hallway smelled of damp plaster and loneliness, walls lined with peeling paper like faded photographs. He searched room by room, finding ashtrays overflowing, bottles tipped like graves in miniature. Across town, Amelia sat in a bare interrogation cell with a man whose fist was scarred from fights and nights too long. He spoke of hunger, of streets that never gave enough, and of a darkness that sometimes pushed him to strike without thought. Amelia wrote his words carefully, sensing truth in fragments, lies in the spaces between. Back in the tenement, Mills found a child's marble under her bed, its glass cracked, catching only slivers of light. It reminded him that broken things still reflected, though never whole. Both detectives, apart, felt the city closing in, the clues pulling tight like rope ready to snap. Yet neither thread revealed the center, only the echo of something larger waiting in the dark. The night ended without answers, but with the weight of a revelation close enough to touch.